Echoey today. This is Shana Meyerson with YOGAthletica in Los Angeles, California, lying around in my Own Your Awesome tank top for a reason. Today we're going to be talking about hip openers, specifically legs behind the head, otherwise known as yoga nidrasana. Yoga nidrasana literally means the yoga sleep pose, which is pretty funny because it's not like the most relaxing of poses, but if you love hip openers, you will love this one. Now, that being said, I am not warm right now, even though it is theoretically summer in Los Angeles and it is not that warm. In fact, I have some goosebumps here. I'm so cold. So we're going to start with warm-ups. That being said, I have a full tutorial on yoga nidrasana, which is both legs behind the head. I'm not going to be getting all the way into all the intricacies, so that tutorial is linked in the description. But you should never do deep stretches without first warming up. And so we're going to start off with some important stretches. Here's how I like to do it. I'm going to do it on my right side, which is my tight side. First things first, let's see if I can get on camera here. I cross my knee over my ankle like so. It's going to be a little hard to keep everything on camera here, but I take the knee in. Here's the knee. My foot is at my knee. I put my hand through the triangle and grab the knee with both hands and pull in. Now, this should look sort of familiar, right? This is just like a pigeon stretch. Like if you did single pigeon on the floor, it's the same dynamic, which is to say that the leg is parallel to the chest and pulling down. This is like your basic hip opener and a really great stretch to get you started. I always recommend holding every stretch for a bare minimum of 5 deep breaths, and that when you're doing deep stretches like this, you should also be warmed up. So honestly, when I do hip stretches, it's at the very, very end of my practice, like right before my seated forward bends and my finishing series. So that means that I have like an hour and a half, 2 hours of warm-ups before getting into my deep hips. Now, if you want my full length classes so that you could do all of the amazing things that I do here on YouTube, you want to go to my Vimeo channels. That's where I have my full length classes. The links are in the description. But again, I don't recommend doing deep stretches like this without warming up. People tell me they practice and they don't have any progress. And I'm like, are you warming up? They're like, no. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, the whole point of stretching is to stretch warmed up muscles. So once you're done with this basic hip opener, again, we're talking about a minimum of about 5 breaths. Try to keep your tailbone flat on the floor. Second round, what I do is I take, this is my right foot, I take my left elbow, you see, and grab my ankle. Now with my right arm, it comes behind and I clasp. Okay, this is just going to take the stretch a little bit deeper. Now, you'll notice that right now my head is sort of lifted. It also looks really funny with the rest of my body cut off. I see that. This is funny, but the whole goal here is actually not to be lifting up, but rather have the elbow behind your head, press back, and lie down. Now, as you do this, the left leg, which you can't see right now, it's extended out in front of me, should be more or less flat to the floor. And when I say this, I mean more. Want to play Twister? I would love to play Twister, but you probably don't want to play with me because I usually win. I'm going to do my best to read the comments as I talk, but I'll also be doing Q&A after, so that might be the best time to save your questions. Now, again, you can see that while I do this, the goal is to get the leg parallel to my chest, right? And as close to the chest as possible. If you're like way out here, not the end of the world, but it's not going to be as effective. So you want to get it as low as possible. The question, do I ever rock climb? The answer, no. And I'll tell you why in 1 second when I switch to the next pose. So again, minimum 5 deep breaths in every pose. And the reason why I've never rock climbed are these. Oh my gosh, look, I totally broke off that nail, but let's look at these nails. I don't really feel like cutting off my nails to be a rock climber and say, oh, this is the most disgusting nail. It broke way down at the bottom. Okay, so third way, I take my elbow around the edge of my foot and the other elbow around my knee. And again, I try to lie down. Now, what you can't see is my left leg, which is flat on the ground. That's the challenging part of this one. And again, what is my goal? My goal is to get this leg parallel to the chest and as close to the chest as possible. Hugging it like this, like a baby, sure helps. And I know you could answer this question because I've already said it about 5 times. How long do we hold this? A minimum of 5 deep Ujjayi breaths. Do you know your Ujjayi breath? You should. It's the foundation of the entire vinyasa flow practice. And if you don't know how to do Ujjayi, I have a video on it here on YouTube. Look it up, learn. It is actually quite important. Okay, once you've got these first 3 stretches in, and if you join late, the whole warm-up and instruction is in my Yoga Nidrasana tutorial. The link is in the description of this video. Okay, from here, shit gets real. Excuse my French. Okay, I recommend after these first 3 stretches to stretch out your leg for just a moment and just sort of release the back of the leg. I also recommend getting your Own Your Awesome merchandise, which is linked in the description also. Okay, so check this out. Once I have my leg and my hip all warmed up, and we're going to talk about why hip openers are so important in a moment. Now I'm going to try to get the leg behind my head. Spoiler alert, I'll be able to do it. Okay, so the best way to get it there is you sit up first, right? Because you got to get this leg behind this head. It's going to be much easier to get here to here than it's going to be to get from here to here. Agree? Shorter distances are always easier to accomplish. So I come in, and it's okay. Your spine is going to round a bit in order to accommodate this. Okay, I take the foot with my hand, you see, and first it's very close to my chest, like a hello. You want it to be able to get very close to your throat because that way it's just a bloop up and over to get it to the back of your head. It's not a huge deal from there. But see this? See how my arm is sort of sticking out through my knee? I actually have to get my shoulder, not my arm, my shoulder underneath the knee for this one to work out efficiently. So as I sit up, watch what I do. You see? Now you can see my shoulder. Before, you could only see my arm. It's not going to work from here. If you want to get your leg behind your head, you have got to get your shoulder in. That's when a little bit of sitting up is going to make the difference. Now, as I said before, it's very simple to get this leg behind my head now. It just goes up and over. You see? Now, when I say simple, now I'm going to squish my shoulder a little bit more. When I say simple, I don't mean easy, okay? They're not the same thing. This is not an easy stretch. This is an extraordinarily deep stretch. Now, I don't say advanced stretch because you could be a really advanced yoga person, but not have tremendous flexibility. Likewise, it could be your first time trying yoga and you have built-in flexibility. That's very, very natural. So don't think that being able to do things like this makes you advanced. It doesn't, okay? Being able to try, work, warm up, put your mind to it, and persist, that's what makes you advanced. Okay, again, what you can't see is that my leg in front is trying to get flat to the floor. This one is much, much harder. So my foot is on the floor, my leg is straight. Again, to get the full tutorial and the full length body, go to my yoga nidrasana video tutorial. That will give you all the nitty gritty. Now, why am I still holding on? Because the second leg. So I hold on to my leg and you'll see my knee is on the floor now. Okay. That's going to stop me from like rolling over to one side or the other. I bend my leg that is in front. Okay. And we know where this has to go, back. Now, how do we do it on the other side? We had to get what? Not just the arm under the leg, but the shoulder, right? Now, I'm already sort of sitting up, right? So it's going to be easier to get the second leg in. So I take it, I grab the foot or the ankle, and I push it up and over. And then I take my feet and I hook them together. My hands, which you can't see because this is a family show and I'm not going to make this a video about my crotch. I take my arms underneath and I clasp. Okay? Take my word for it. My hands are clasped. Now, those of you who are more bendy than I am not the world's bendiest person. You do want to try to like lie down into the can't get my feet to the floor right now. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. Right now I can't. I have not done I did do a full practice this morning, but it was about an hour ago. So I'm not as warm as can be. But the goal is to sort of press the head, hook the feet together, press the head into the legs, and try your best to get the tailbone down and the feet and head down towards the floor behind you. Okay, those are the broad strokes of how to do this pose, but if you go to my Yoga Nidrasana tutorial, which is linked in the description, that's where you're going to get the step-by-step full instructions. So for the rest of the show, I'm probably going to just sit here. Why? Because it's Yoga Nidrasana, and this is how we sleep in yoga. Portable foot pillow. Yes, if only it were that comfortable. Actually, I'll tell you something funny and unexpected. Doing two legs, believe it or not, is actually easier than doing one leg because it's symmetrical. So yes, this is my my portable foot pillow. It does help to support your neck, quite frankly. So that's good. Okay, so why hip openers? Like, it just looks weird and people are always like, okay, that's weird, that's crazy. Like, why bother? That's just crazy yoga stuff. So on one hand, it sort of is crazy yoga stuff because like no other practice that I know of makes such a big deal about hips. Now, let me tell you why hips are important, because some people don't fully understand. Hips are important if you value things like, not just yoga, but things like sitting, standing, and walking. Believe it or not, those are all hip activities. Now, I personally like things like sitting, standing, and walking. And when you're young or young-ish, I'm going to be 54 in 2 weeks. So even though I think I'm young, I don't think I'm actually young. But when you're young or young-ish, like you don't really think about hips. So let's think about an older person in your life, maybe a parent, a great-grandparent, a grandparent. And you may know that a lot of the older people break hips. I hope this isn't news to you. It's sad. And what happens is a lot of times, if they take a fall, and the older you get, the more likely you are to fall, of course. A lot of times, like, that hip will never heal, like literally never heal. A lot of older people actually die after breaking a hip. And breaking hips is common, among other things, because we spend so little time focusing on them. And so I'm going to say that if you, again, appreciate things like sitting, walking, and standing, particularly as you get older and you don't want to die of a broken hip someday, hip openers are a very valuable asset and a very important part of the yoga practice. So here's what's super interesting. Now stick with me because I know this is going to sound a little woo-woo, and anybody who knows me knows I am like not the woo-woo yogi. I really, really am not. And yes, bone health is key always. And by the way, what's the best way to build bone health in yoga? It's balancing on one leg or on your hands and arms. Having that extra weight and balance really helps to build bone health. So even things like tree pose, anything where you're just standing on one leg is really going to help. Okay, so here's the woo-woo part from a not woo-woo person. Believe it or not, hip openers in yoga are really, really effective in releasing residual stress, tension, and trauma. Stick with me here. Oh, see, I unclasped. Let me clasp. Stick with me here because I know a lot of people think like that is ridiculous. It's not ridiculous, and stay to the end because I'm going to talk to you about how I know this really, really works. Among other things, if you go to yoga classes, there's a super good chance that your yoga teacher plays sad songs during hip openers. Why? Because it's low-hanging fruit and they are taking advantage of your vulnerability. Just so you know. Hip openers make people cry. They're emotional releases. Why? Because in life, when we have stress and trauma and tension that we do not want to look at, and come on guys, let's be honest, we all have some of that, you know, the ghosts in our closet, the skeletons in our closet, the things that are scary and painful and we just want to push away and never dealt with. Where do we put it? Well, energy once created cannot be destroyed. Okay, if you're like 16 years old or older, you probably learned that in science. So you have two choices with emotional energy. You can let it go, or you could tuck it away, and it likes to reside in the hips. I'm going to switch legs now. I'm going to come back to this. So just a reminder. First, now I'm going to my other side. I take the foot to the knee. I pull it in. And I try to get that leg parallel to my chest, okay? So we're going to start from scratch on the left side, especially because a lot of people are just tuning in here. So you want to go a minimum of 5 deep Ujjayi breaths, okay? I'm trying to, you can see my leg there, get it parallel to the chest. And this is like the proper warm-up for Yoga Nidrasana, legs behind the head. But you also want to have like a full yoga practice before you even get to this point, okay? So again, I'm doing my hip openers, my deep hip openers after literally between 1.5 to 2 hours of practice. This is sort of the culmination of the deep stretching after back bends and before forward bends. If you need help putting classes together, check out my Vimeo channels where I have hundreds of unique classes that will help you to get the strength, flexibility, balance, everything that you need to do everything awesome that I teach here on YouTube, okay? That information's in the description. Once you've got a minimum 5 breaths here, remember we hook the elbow around the ankle, take the other arm behind the head, clasp, and lie down. Okay, so I understand that now I'm going to be a little blocked off. That's okay. I know I'm not that beautiful. You could live without it. So anyway, 5 breaths here. Again, I'm getting my leg close to my chest. I'm going to get back to the emotional benefits of hip openers because they're so important. But I just want to show once again for those tuning in late, the best way to warm this up, and you'll see that I'm lying flat on the floor with the leg close to my chest. Third step, one arm comes around the foot, one arm comes around the knee. Once again, lying down, okay, my right leg, which you can't see because it's off screen, is flat, flat, flat on the floor. That means every single part of my leg is flat on the floor, and this leg is parallel to the chest, okay? Ideally, sort of like not down like this, but up. And I'm hoping this isn't blocking the microphone from the microphone receiver. Okay, once you've got that, release the leg. It looks like I weigh like 10,000 pounds from this angle. I promise I don't weigh 10,000 pounds. I weigh about 123, which is a cool number, 123. Okay, so once I straighten out, I sit up enough that I can take the leg. Remember, you can't just do it with your arm underneath. You've got to get your shoulder underneath. How do I get my shoulder underneath? I squish in, okay? Look where my shoulder is now. Not here, here's my shoulder, but here. So that, hello. All I have to do really is get this leg over my head and behind my neck, you see? So once I have the leg down, I'm gonna stay holding on because I'm gonna be bringing in the second leg shortly. But my right leg, which is off screen because this is a family show, is as flat to the floor as possible. Okay, don't like float that in the air. Foot is on the floor, maybe your whole leg is on the floor, whatever you could get is on the floor. Big hip opener on the left side. How do we get the right side in? Okay, I lean back. There's the leg, remember? Can't be arm, it's gotta be shoulder, okay? So I get my shoulder in, hook the feet together, clasp the hands underneath my body. Okay, now, if you're more bendy than I am, you could try to like lie down, press your head into the feet. I'm not bendy enough to lie down, so this is what you got. Okay, so as I was saying, when we create energy, energy cannot be destroyed. That's just basic physics. I'm sorry, I like things like science and math, and so there you go. Like it or hate it, remember high school science. So when I have stress, tension, emotional stress and tension, I can either get rid of it, deal with that. Boy, how we hate dealing with stuff in our lives, don't we? Or I could tuck it away in my hips where nobody will ever look at it, including myself, unless I come to yoga class. By the way, this is why you want to go to yoga class. Among many other reasons, it's great for releasing stress and tension, okay? So right now, having the legs behind the head, again, gets directly into the hips, which is residual stress and tension. If you don't know, where is my current stress and tension? People hold on to it in their shoulders, and many also hold it in their necks. The necks and shoulders are very, very interconnected, yes? So if I want to get into like the therapy stuff, right? The stuff that I've been carrying around for a long time, it's hip openers. If I want to get into the here and now, like my boss yelled at me today, or my husband is angry with me, or, you know, name the thing, my kid just threw up in my face. All of those things, that's like shoulders, right? So if you watch like cartoons of like men who are stressed out at work, they always have their shoulders like way up in their ears, right? That's for a reason. That's why Gomukhasana is like the most potent stretch probably in all of yoga because it hits your hips and your shoulders simultaneously. Okay, so here's one last thing and then I'll go to question and answer if anybody has any questions. Here we go, my big pigtail stuck. I've stepped on them in back bends and really jerked my head when I've tried to stand up. That sucks. But besides that, they haven't been a tremendous job hazard. So how do I know that hip openers really, honestly, and truly get into that emotional tension? So here's a true story. For those of you who don't know, I also happen to work with children. I was one of the first people in the Western world actually to teach yoga to children. My company, Mini Yogis, was founded in March of 2002, way before yoga for kids was a thing. I used to have a class and it was all girls and just one boy, okay? And this boy was like hardcore athlete, okay? And I say this because you would think a boy in a class of girls might be a little embarrassed to be there or apprehensive, but every time we would go into hip openers, he would literally start crying, just crying. And so the first time it happened, I took him out of the room. I'm like, "Are you okay? What's going on? Does it hurt?" And he's like, "No, I don't know why I'm crying. I just, for some reason, this pose just makes me want to cry." And it's the first time that I saw like really, really primally how the hip openers create emotional release. You'll see it in women a lot, but not that often in kids. And that was the day that I became a believer. I talked to his parents and found out that he was under tremendous stress. He was a baseball player who was playing up about 2 or 3 divisions. His father, I didn't talk to his parents, I talked to his mother. His father was one of those baseball dads who gave him so much stress that the kid was just a total basket case. And so this was his release. So this is my proof, and it's all I needed, that hip openers are not only important for things like mobility, standing, sitting, walking, but also for releasing trauma. That being said, I'm going to release my legs. And if anybody has any actual questions, not comments about things, but questions about hip openers, I'm going to just release a little bit by holding one leg into my chest and releasing the other leg in front. What diet? So I think you're asking what diet I maintain. I personally am a very, very, very strict vegan with no exceptions. I literally do not eat any animal products or any animal byproducts for any reason other than honey. I'll eat honey. That means I don't eat anything with any sort of egg product or milk product like whey or anything like that. I'm a very, very strict vegetarian, or sorry, not vegetarian, vegan. Okay, so that includes I don't wear leather, and I don't partake in anything that involves killing animals. No meat. Absolutely no meat. And when I say no meat, that includes fish, chicken, anything. I don't eat anything that's ever been killed or anything that has ever been derived from an animal. Does anybody have any other questions, particularly having to do with hip openers or the pose I just did? I'm going to just stretch the hamstring for a moment here. I'm not all the way warm, as previously mentioned, so I'm not going to be able to get this leg to the floor. I've actually also been out of the country for 2 weeks and did not practice for 2 whole weeks. So I'm a lot tighter than usual. So plants are not conscious. I will argue that plants are not conscious. I know that a lot of people make this argument. And yes, there have been scientific studies that show that plants may have some sort of nerves or nervous reactions to things. But as far as I'm concerned, and I do believe in God, if God made a miracle for man, it is fruits and vegetables and greens that literally come from dirt, from the earth, to feed us. So I do believe that we were meant to be eating fruits, vegetables, and grains, not animals. But if you really want to get into the biblical references of that, I can. But is that like a first trimester baby? We are the fruits of nature. I will agree with that. So does anybody have any questions about the actual hip opener that we did today? So finishing off, it's always good to neutralize by hugging knees into the chest. And anything else? Going once, going twice. Okay. Anyway, thanks for checking in today. I'm going to just do one more yoga nidrasana really quickly for anybody who doesn't know why we're here. Yoga nidrasana, again, once you have a proper warm up, you take the shoulder underneath, take the other foot behind, go to my full yoga nidrasana video to get the full explanation. And so babies at first trimester isn't conscious like a plant. Oh, I see what you're saying. I thought you were asking if I'm pregnant, which I thought was a really weird question. Okay, so you're saying, is a plant like a first trimester baby? No, absolutely not. So I don't want to get into that discussion, but personally, I believe that a baby is a baby. And as soon as a baby is formed to the point where it has like a heartbeat or a brain or anything like that, I don't care if it's the size of a bean, that is a conscious being. I'm not going to get into the argument of a baby at inception, because that's really a personal decision. But sorry, I misunderstood why why did I think you thought I was pregnant? Because this angle is so bad that I just look crazy. Okay, I mean I look crazy like pregnant or something. A baby plant. I'm not sure what that means, a baby plant. I think a baby plant is a plant. And I think that plants are okay to eat. So anyway, I do not personally judge people for the diets that they choose. I happen to be a very, very strict vegan. I have a blog post about this on my YOGAthletica.com website. If you're interested, you could contact me if you can't find it, and I will send it to you. But you know, what people eat is always their own personal choice. I will say that if you follow yoga uh, and you believe in things like ahimsa, nonviolence, then you know, a vegan diet makes the most sense. But I do understand not everybody takes yoga as seriously as some of us do. So yoga goes way beyond the mat. And today, what I was talking about is hip openers, and how do hip openers go way beyond the mat. Let us review, and then we'll go ahead and tune out. Hips are good for things like walking, if you enjoy walking, standing, and sitting. Okay, those are the basics. Okay, hips are also good for things like yogaing and much more intense things. As we get older, our hips become more and more vulnerable. We all know that. We go to yoga so that we can touch every part of our body, right? Like get stretches, get flexible, get strength, get mobile. And if we don't go to yoga, we take our residual stress and tension and we hide it in our hips. Okay. Because if you don't go to yoga, you actually sort of never have to look at it. Okay. So yoga forces us to release the emotional stress and tension that we have created in our lives and never let go of. Okay. So I would say that this is probably, hip openers are like the most profound yoga stretches when it comes to floor stretches, because of both their physical, mental, and emotional benefits. Does anybody have any other questions that I can answer before logging off? Best decompression for the vertebrae, especially. Absolutely. So if anybody doesn't know what the L series is, that means the lumbar spine. The lumbar spine is the part of your spine that goes from the low ribs down to your sacrum, basically your low back. Most back injuries that people have are in the low back, right? And I hope it's obvious how the hips and pelvis are related to the low back, right? Because the hips are the joints of the pelvis. The pelvis is directly connected to the spine. And so when we flatten out the low back, as we do in hip stretches, it helps to release them. Thank you for the nice comments. I really appreciate it. Does anybody have any other questions before I finish off? Actual questions, not questions about my feet, okay? Everyone has feet. Please don't make this creepy. Okay, hip openers, going once. Hip openers, going twice. Okay, thank you so much for tuning in. If you want more hip opening instruction, go to my Hip Hip Hooray playlist where I have tons and tons of hip opening videos. And I also have a leg behind the head playlist for those of you who really, really, really want to get your legs and feet behind your head. This is Shana Meyerson with YOGAthletica. Don't forget to also check out my Vimeo channels where I have hundreds of full-length classes to give you the strength, the flexibility, and the balance that you need to do all the poses I teach here on YouTube. Remember that on YouTube, I really just teach poses. On my Vimeo, I do full length classes. Where did I travel last week? I was in Israel. And now I am back in Los Angeles. So any other questions? I feel like every time there's a question, I have to go one. Shalom. Thank you so much. We all pray for peace on earth for all people. That is my everyday and greatest wish for this earth, period. End of story. May peace prevail. This is Shana Meyerson with YOGAthletica, now in Los Angeles, California, last Friday, 2 days ago, in Israel. And we'll take it from there. I'll see you next time.